Hey everyone, Michael here with Break a Pencil. Let's jump into it and get back to day 4 of our Taylor Swift Masterclass in Strategic Leadership, where we're covering the arc of time from 2019 to 2025, from when Scooter Braun and Ithaca Holdings first bought the masters to Taylor Swift's first 6 albums, to just a few days ago, May 30, 2025, when Taylor announced that she was able to successfully buy them back. So the period of time we're going to talk about today, 2022 to 2023, really focusing on all of the campaigns that Taylor was coordinating to really deliver maximum impact. This is all about the strategic orchestra conductor persona from my framework that I developed called the 6 personas of product leadership. If you want to copy that framework, which covers 6 personas that are vital, essential for product leaders to embody at different times throughout their, work, please, I'll have a link either below in the comments if you're watching this on LinkedIn or in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. So, quick recap. On Saturday, I had a video where we did the introduction and the overview of the whole big picture. Then on Sunday, we talked about the political navigator and really how Taylor was able to get the public on her side to start to apply some pressure, to start to get the environment really more tuned to what she needed it to be. And then yesterday we talked about the innovation architect, where Taylor sort of announced and started to implement her re-recording strategy, really all about creating competing assets. Today we're going to talk about the strategic orchestra conductor, which is really all about the fan coordination and the stakeholder coordination and the initiatives. I mean, ultimately, look, Taylor had to coordinate stakeholders and initiatives and a timeline and a lot of complex moving parts. And what we're going to see is this was a masterful coordination under enormous amounts of pressure. So this is the overall timeline that I've shared a few times now. This is specifically the time period we're going to focus on today, and specifically on the strategic orchestra conductor. We'll talk about business, portfolio, choreographer, persona tomorrow. The coordination challenge. So this was a really big challenge in terms of coordination, and you're going to see it in a moment here. Multiple moving parts. Taylor had 4 re-recorded albums that she needed to release strategically, while managing fan expectations and energy, the timing, and any legal or contractual obligations she had to manage. And really the insight is it's not just about individual pieces, but coordinating all the elements, right? The orchestra conductor, it isn't just about getting 1 or 2 or 3 instruments to play perfectly. It's about getting the entire orchestra working together harmoniously. Lots of stakeholders to deal with. Clearly, her primary stakeholders are the millions of devoted fans, but she also has secondary stakeholders like the industry and media and streaming platforms and her team and others. And then she's got this opposition stakeholder idea, right? Ithaca Holdings, Scooter Braun, and then he later sold to Shamrock Capital, and then industry traditionalists who frankly are constantly scrutinizing and looking for Taylor to make a mistake or slip up somewhere along the way. And the insight from this, keep everybody aligned that you can, your stakeholders, while building pressure on these opponents, right? Or what we'll see later, on your competition. And timing. Timing is incredibly important, and Taylor uses it to her advantage as a strategic weapon. Every release builds momentum for the next. The market positioning against her own original versions, what an incredibly challenging thing to do. And ultimately building leverage up to and using that leverage from the Eras Tour. It's not just about when, it's about sequence and rhythm. Again, think about the orchestra. It's not just about hitting the notes and hitting the marks, but it's about bringing it all together in the right sequence with the right rhythm. Look at this timeline. When I put this together, I was just blown away. Let me walk through it with you left to right. June 30, 2019, Big Machine Records announces that they've sold the business, and including the rights to Taylor's original 6 albums, to Scooter Braun of Ithaca Holdings. Later that day, Taylor denounces the acquisition on Tumblr. Just a couple months later, on a special episode of CBS News Sunday, she announces that she's going to re-record. Okay. About a year later from that, a little more than a year later, Scooter Braun actually flips the asset and sells the masters to Shamrock Holdings. He bought everything from Big Machine Records in June 2019. I believe he only sold the masters in November 2020, so he retained some of the assets that he originally bought. But he flipped the Taylor Swift masters. In February of 21, Taylor announces on Good Morning America that she's going to be releasing Fearless, Taylor's version. And then 2 months later, on April 9th, she releases Fearless, Taylor's version. Talked about that a little bit in my video yesterday. Then 2 months later, she releases the cover art and announces that she's going to release Red, Taylor's version, on November 19th. And then she surprises fans and drops it 1 week early on November 12th. About 8-9 months after that, surprises everyone at the MTV Video Music Awards and announces a new album titled Midnights. And 2 months later, on October 21st, she releases it. And 3 hours later, she releases the second half of it and surprises everyone with it being a double album. Then, 10 days later, she announces the Eras Tour. 4 months later, her first show on the Eras Tour in Glendale, Arizona. 2 months later, while on stage at the Eras Tour in Nashville, she announces Speak Now, Taylor's version. 2 months later, Speak Now, Taylor's version is released. A month after that, on stage in Los Angeles, she announces 1989, Taylor's version's coming. And 2 months later, she releases it. The amount of moving parts, moving pieces, right? These are these orange ones. These are some of the things that were happening kind of, just in the background, right? Yellow is her Fearless album. Red's the Red album. Blue is the Midnights album. White's the Eras Tour. Purple is Speak Now. Blue is 1989. I mean, it's mind-boggling just to watch it. Imagine all the things going on behind the scenes. In fact, let me show you, before I go into the next slide, her announcement of Speak Now, Taylor's version at the concert. Just watch.
I've been planning something for a while. And you know how I love to plan things, and then you know how I love to surprise you with the things that I've been planning. It's just something. It's my love language with you, I plot, I scheme, I plan, and then I get to tell you about it. So I think rather than me speaking about it, I thought I would just show you. So if you would direct your attention to the back big screen that we have. Speak Now comes out July 7th.
I get blown away every time I watch that video. This is an announcement of an album coming that's a re-record. And the fans are going nuts. Everybody's hanging on her words. Again, not an album out, an announcement of an album out, and not a new album, a re-record. Unbelievable. Masterful execution. So even before Speak Now, the first one was Fearless, then she does Red, her most beloved album for maximum impact. She drops 30 songs from the original 16, so massive value add. All Too Well 10-minute version breaks all sorts of streaming records, and she releases a short film with that's kind of a music video short film for All Too Well 10-minute version, which adds a whole multimedia layer to this release. She mobilizes her fans. They create detailed tutorials for Spotify so you can game the system and make sure that none of the original versions show up in your streams or in your feed. because they want to emphasize Taylor's versions. They coordinate on launch day and shortly after, like listening parties to just listen over and over and over to the new versions when her albums drop, so they can just completely, blow the numbers away on the streams. Orchestra conductor genius. She didn't control these fans. She just channeled their energy. Great conductors, they don't micromanage, they align and they amplify. And the sequence, right? Then she does Speak Now, then she does 1989, each one building to the next, countless theories and Easter eggs, unstoppable momentum. It's really, you saw the crowd screaming there, through very careful, planned, systematic execution. What does this mean to me as a product leader? Well, a couple things. For one, when you have to coordinate cross-functional teams, which is always, right? Taylor's approach would say clear vision, autonomous execution, right? Said a very clear vision. So what do? You need to work and align engineering and design and marketing and sales. And you need to do this without constraining them, without smothering them, without micromanaging them. So ultimately what you need to do is make sure you have a very clear vision. You articulate it, you repeat it, and you burn that message in. And then let the experts do their jobs. Key lesson, set the tempo, set the direction, let the teams execute. Stakeholder energy management. This is important because we know product development is a long cycle sometimes, and energy management is really important. Fan energy, Taylor's biggest asset, it's also her biggest risk, right? It doesn't take much for these fans to sort of say, enough already. She managed it through clear communication, through consistent delivery. We saw that rapid fire of that timeline. And surprise and delight, right? Just these surprise announcements, these Easter eggs, all sorts of things. So what does that mean for us as product managers and product leaders? Leverage your user community. Make sure you're focusing on those internal stakeholders and your executive sponsors, right? And make sure you're always watching and paying attention, not just to sort of their expectations, but their energy levels. Channel the enthusiasm, but be careful that you don't burn people out. Lastly, all about the sequencing. Right? The traditional approach is we launch it all at once, or we just kind of launch as we go. No. Each move sets up the next move, sets up the next move, right? In an orchestra piece, right? Each move each passage is building to the next, building to the next. Taylor builds proof points. She ratchets up the stakes and ultimately creates this inevitability of this stuff happening. Okay? So for you as a product manager, product leader, look at feature rollouts, look at your market expansion, look at the way you competitive position against your competition, and think about the steps you are taking, and think about the sequencing and the timing and the rhythm. So in your own role, in your day-to-day, how do you bring the strategic orchestra conductor persona to life? You need it when you're managing complex initiatives, which is likely all the time. You need it when you're managing multiple stakeholders, which is all the time. And you need it when you're managing competing timelines, which is probably all the time as well. The core skill, right, is being able to see the whole system. You've got to be able to see the individual parts, but you need to be able to sit back and see all of the interplay of how the pieces come together, right? So the lesson from Taylor, we learn is that great conductors, they create harmony from this complexity, right? She had all this complexity of album releases, re-releases, tour announcement, and tour dates, and she sequenced it all in really, really effective harmony. Okay, tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to talk about how Taylor used the Eras Tour to build ultimate leverage. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below if you're on YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn, I have a link to the YouTube video if you want, so you can subscribe so you'll get notified the moment a new video drops. Thanks for listening, and I will see you all tomorrow.